Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Joey Foster, right there at Shane Statmiller. Guess what? Neil Brown has been canned. He's done, and we're here to talk about all that. We'll be right back. So awesome to be back with you guys for a show. Shane, me and you haven't done a show in a while. I enjoy coming on with you guys and having fun. Will Forbes and I were on here about a week ago talking about this very thing. Of course, I don't know why everybody thinks this is breaking news. I broke this news to everybody 6 weeks ago. Did I not, Shane? I mean, I broke this news to everybody 6 weeks ago.
No, we had been talking about Joey, and I think we even pinned the Rose on 6 and 6. And back in, what was it? Oh, goodness. It had to be almost a year ago. We talked about if the Mountaineers, went 500, they think they might shop for a new coach. And sure enough, here we are.
Yeah.
Brown went 500. And I don't think it helped that Texas Tech rolled West Virginia up like a soft taco.
No, well, I'll be honest with you. To me, I sat there and laughed, not laughing at the score, not laughing at Neil Brown. Look, I'm going to explain myself here in a second, but here's what I was laughing at. I'm laughing at podcasters and announcers and everything going out there, and I'd like to break in news that this is something that I was told 6 weeks ago, regardless how Neil Brown finishes the year, he's fired. It doesn't make a difference if he goes undefeated from here on out. This was 6 weeks ago. It doesn't make a difference if he goes undefeated or not. He's done. He's finished. He's not coming back. Now, here we are. And everybody before last week's game, after we beat UCF, they were saying Neil Brown's going to stay. He's not going to go anywhere. And I'm sitting there. I never went live. I never said a word. I just kept saying, y'all crazy. Neil Brown's gone. He's done. That's it. He's toast. He was toast 4 weeks ago. And here we are after 5 weeks. He's done. And now here we are after 6 weeks after I said about that, and he is done. And so now stage 2. Here's my thoughts on this. Look, Neil Brown's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. He's a good coach. He's a good coach, especially Sunday through Friday. He can't coach on Saturday. But he's a great recruiter. He's great for the students. He's great for the culture. He's great for everything that is West Virginia. Neil Brown embodies everything there is about West Virginia, but he can't win the games. And unfortunately, that's where it really matters, right? Doesn't matter how many players you graduate. It doesn't matter how good of a culture you have and how good of a recruiter you are. If you can't win games and stuff, he had to go. And he's gone now. Now, at the same time, I'm going to ask you this, Shane. Do you want to keep doing this experiment? So we tried an experiment in 2012 called Let's Hire an Offensive Coordinator who's a big guru out there, Dana Holson, to get this program and get it going again, because in the fans' perspective, we were down during the Bill Stewart years. Now, not in my perspective at all. I thought Bill Stewart did a great job. We were 9-10 win team every year under Bill Stewart. So Bill Stewart done a great job. But Dana Holgerson brought excitement. He brought something new to Morgantown, right? Exciting offense. Then he's gone. Neil Brown comes in, and all of a sudden the excitement's back and everything. It's something new. But there you have 2 coaches without any experience at the Power 5 level. And you brought them in. And now what do you do now as when you're looking to hire a new head coach? Do you fall back into that same area and say, okay, let's go hire Jamie Chadwell, right? Let's get him. He's a great coach in Group of 5. Let's bring him in. Or do you say, okay, we need some experience. Let's go get Jimbo Fisher. Let's at least call Nick Saban. He's not going to take the job most likely, but let's at least give him a call. And Brad Smith alluded to that today in his article on the Voice of Morgantown. but you've got to at least give him a call. I agree with that 100%. So you got to at least give him a call. But what about the experience? Do you want experience? Do you want a Rich Rod? Do you want a Jimbo? Or are you okay with taking Jimmy Chadwell or Barry Odom? Barry Odom's a good coach. Barry Odom's a great coach, right? How do you feel about that? Experience or go back in the well?
Chiswell's a good coach. He's coached at Liberty. He's proven. But getting a guy like Andy Kolenicki, and I always mess up his name, gives me a little bit of the hives because, like you said, we must have done a lot of shows together because we think alike. I don't feel comfortable with a Dana Holgerson or a Neil Brown. I want a ball coach with a little bit of crust in his sweatshirt. A guy that's been around, is a little bit grumpy. I want a Rich Rod. I want a Jimbo Fisher. I want someone who just will chew ass and literally has attitude. I would prefer that. Maybe that's because of our generation, our age, but I think that's what, Barry Odom, he has a little bit of that nasty, but we're going back to coaches that haven't coached, big name college football. Now UNLV is a big program, but it's not of the caliber of a, Jimbo Fisher, who coached at Florida State, who got them to won a national championship, just shy of 15 years ago. 12 years ago, 2013, 12 years ago. So, it's a lot more shine. Now, here's the other thing. I'm going to tie this in. Bear with me. Look at Kurt Signetti. What did Kirk do this year at Indiana? He was winning. He was winning with players he brought from James Madison over. This wasn't give me a few years to trust the climb, because the pendulum is just swung one way with NIL. You have the opportunity to take your team with you and win immediately. If you have the horses, you can bring them along and just ride from day one. I think that's what Ren Baker needs. That's what happened with the basketball coach. We see how fantastic that pick was for Ren Baker, that DeVries is winning. He has a gritty team that went. I know this is a football show, but guys, unless you've been a Mountaineer, if you're a Mountaineer fan and you've been in a cave for a week and a half, I'm going to let you know, Coach DeVries took the Mountaineers to the Atlantis tournament, and he played fantastic ball.
Mm-hmm.
Games, overtime, won 2 of them, beat a number 3 team, beat a 24 ranked team. Guys, that proves that Ren Baker can pick coaches. Let's hope he can pick a football coach.
Well, now let's think about this. Now, Ren Baker, you can't just stop with the men's basketball. You got to look at women's basketball too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You have to look at other things. I mean, he's done just an amazing job. Ren Baker has. So I trust him 100% to hire us a good coach here. Now, that being said, how would you feel if he went out and hired Rich Rodriguez? How would you feel about that, Shane? I know there's going to be some split things about West Virginia, but what do you think?
I'm going to give you Shane. I'm going to go Shane going back to 2007. Right, here's my time machine. Okay, I'm back. This is Shane from 2007. No, I don't want Rich Rod. I hate Rich Rod. Let's fast forward to today. I think Rich Rod's exactly what West Virginia needs.
Yeah, he's doing a great job at Jacksonville State. Now, he's had a couple of stops that weren't so great at Michigan and Arizona, en route getting back to this point of being in the conversation to come back to Morgantown. Here's what I think. I think it would be okay to hire Rich Rod, providing he comes in with the right attitude. Now, if he comes in and says, I'm glad to be back in town. We're going to get West Virginia back to the winning ways it was, and walks away from the press conference. Okay, I'm not sold. I'm not bought back in to Rich Rod yet. But if he comes in and says, hey, look, I'm in a program I should have never left. It was a stupid mistake. I apologize to every fan out there, but I'm back. Let's work on this together. Let's build this program back to where we were before. And, and then I'm fine with Rich Rod. But I'm not saying he's got to eat a bunch of crow, but at least make an effort to apologize to the fan base.
What we
It's how I
got
feel.
with Rich Rod, we got to smell that the crow has been cooked and served.
Yeah.
I don't think we need him to take a big bite of humble pie in front of everyone. But
Right.
I want to
Don't need that, but you still need him to. He still needs to acknowledge that. Hey, you know, I really did. I made an error. I should not have left Morgantown, West Virginia. I had something built. I had something going, and you know, we can build that again together as a coach and fan base. We can do it again.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's what we need. Now, what about Jimbo Fisher? Jimbo Fisher, a lot of noise surrounding him coming in. Jimbo didn't have a great success at Texas A&M on a Texas A&M scale. Now, he had great success at Texas A&M when you look at any other football program in the country, pretty much. But at Texas A&M, it wasn't very good. You know, but you got to look at who he's playing. If he's playing LSU and Georgia's and Alabama's and stuff, he had, you know, to only lose a couple of games a year when you're playing Georgia's and Alabama's and LSU's and Florida's, that's not too bad to only lose a couple of games a year. I don't care if you do have the best recruiting class, you're going to drop games to those teams.
That was big ball LSU, big ball Alabama. Those were the years, the peak of the dynasty.
Right. So, and he beat Alabama in 21.
Yeah. You know, Jimbo, and I'm going to, you know, I think Jimbo would be a freaking steal. The only problem is, listen to what if you're just tuning in, go back 3 minutes. I talked about Kurt Signetti. He took his ball players from James Madison. First year, he's going out. He's got to end with one loss, I'm thinking. But listen, guys, he brought players with him. That seems to be the key to success. That's the recipe. Jimbo has been out of the game for a few years. These past couple years, this NIL thing is mature and faster than coaches can catch up that are in the game. I mean, it's like
well, the big thing about NIL now is there's revenue sharing. So guess what? All of a sudden, West Virginia can't compete with the big boys because there's revenue sharing, and so therefore, you know, they get some revenue sharing going on out of that Big 12. That's great. That can do nothing but help schools like West Virginia. That revenue sharing. I know people think they can hurt them. Actually, it can help them. And the same thing with NIL. We finally got our feet under NIL and we've got a hold of it, like you were talking about. Now it's kind of smooth selling. Now bring in a coach that, like a Jimbo, who had to weigh a bigger NIL down at Texas A&M than we have at West Virginia. You have to look at that. Or you bring in a Rich Rod who has not really dealt too much in NIL. Think about it. When he left Arizona, NIL wasn't in really full force yet. He's at Jackson State, and that you know, Jackson State's NIL is comparable, 1/5 of West Virginia's NIL. So there's a big difference there running a big time college football program with NIL. So do you go and grab a coach that's been there, done it in Jimbo Fisher, or do you grab a coach that has been there, done it at West Virginia in Rich Rod? So Jimbo Fisher's been there, done it with NIL, been there, done it with recruiting, been there, done it as far as national championship at Florida State, obviously. But Rich Rod's been there and done it at West Virginia in the past. Can he bring that magic back? And which one do you go with? And once again, I have to lean towards experience. And my thought process is Jimbo Fisher's the right hire here. Jimbo wants his job, guys. Jimbo wants to come back to Morgantown. I know he does.
I think Brad is sniffing in the right garbage can. I think exactly. We've had Brad Smith on the show just a month ago. It was one of your last shows, Joey. But you know, we had him on, and he is controversial. But I absolutely love his take. It's a hot take. He's not licking the boots of the WVU media. He goes in his own direction. Love it or lump it. That's Brad. But I mean, I like that Jimbo Fisher here, as experienced coach, brings this. They can hire. They have the credibility with the name. They can hire and bring in some assistant coaches. Mind you, if West Virginia wants to fork out a little bit of cash, because these assistant coaches that know how to navigate the NIL have to, they know what they have, and there's not very many that are hugely successful. It's so new.
Right. Yeah, I think that there's some great comments here. I'm going to get to those here in just a second, but I do see some great comments out there. But there's a huge list of potential coaches, including the Penn State offensive coordinator, who was the Kansas Kansas offensive coordinator last year, went to Penn State this year. And he's fantastic. And you said his name a while ago, Shane. I'm not going to try to say it because I'll get it wrong. But he's a great one. You look at Barry Odom. Barry Odom is a fantastic hire. If you could grab somebody like a Barry Odom, that would be a fantastic hire.
I like Andy Kolonicki. I've been practicing his name because I like him that much. But the problem with that, Joey, and everybody in the chat, the problem with Andy is he hasn't been a head ball coach. And we went down that road with Dana Holgorsen, and we kind of went to, now Coach Brown has been a head coach at Troy, but I want someone with some gray whiskers that has lost a few and won a few ball games at the highest level. That's just me.
Yeah. So USA Today came out with their 7 picks, right, for coaches, and number 1 on their list, just like everybody's, is Jimbo Fisher. Number 2 is Jamie Chadwell, Liberty. Number 3, Barry Odom, who we talked about, UNLV. Number 4, Shannon Dawson, Miami's offensive coordinator. I'll say something about that in a minute. Rich Rodriguez, Jacksonville State, obviously. Jason Kendall, Toledo head coach. Why not? And Andy Kolonicki, Penn State offensive coordinator. So that's their 7. And I don't take exception to any of those, except I'm not sure about Shannon Dawson. I don't know that Shannon Dawson's ready to lead a Power 5 football program as a head coach yet. I'd be okay with Barry Odom. I'd be okay with Jamie Chadwell, and stuff. And of course, I would be okay with Jimbo Fisher or Rich Rod. But I don't know if Shannon Dawson is ready for that. So that would be my thought on that. What's your thoughts there?
Barry Odom would be not a bad pick, and I think Ren Baker has some history with him from what I've been hearing. I think there was 3 years where they worked together, but man, Jamie Chadwell, Liberty. We talked about him a little bit last year when Neil Brown, before he turned the season around. We talked about Jamie being a great coach, and Liberty is a program that is paying him handsomely. So I don't know if you could turn his head. Can you get him to leave that?
Oh yeah. There's no doubt about it. You can, come on, to get out of Liberty and come to a Power 5 program, absolutely,
Power 5,
without a doubt. But at the same time, at the same time, you're right. How grounded is he in their program right now? He's established there, But you know what? He was also established at the Coastal Carolina as well, and he had a good payday there. Yeah, he was 39-22 at Coastal Carolina. He's 21-4 at Liberty, including 13-1 last year, and went to the Fiesta Bowl. This is a really, really good coach. But you got to remember too, that is coaching in a group of 5, and that's where Neil Brown came from, and he was one of the highest rated coaches coming out of group of 5. Just like you guys are mentioning these guys here today, it's just exactly like we was talking about Neil Brown 6 years ago. I was sitting right here on this network 6 years ago talking about Neil Brown and how good of a coach I thought he was going to be, how big of a hire he was going to be, how good of a hire he was. I was right here on this network, and I was on Golden Blue Dude, and we were talking about that.
Yep.
So yes, there's no doubt about it that some of these coaches would be great coaches, and I'm not saying they're all going to try to be Neil Brown, but at the same time, I want a proven, established coach, and that's where I think we need to look towards Jimbo and even look back towards Rich Rod, somebody that's proven and established.
Now, here's the thing, boys and girls. I was so excited, and what's made me kind of like, I don't want you to get rid of Neil Brown because he has done a fantastic job in the recruiting portal. But recruits have been picking up on the fact that he, from what Joey was saying, the writing was on the wall. This was determined weeks ago. The recruits have picked up on it, and we've had some decommits. Do we have more decommits since this, or does Ren Baker make the change quick, bring in a big name, and salvage this class? We'll see. And that's to be determined. But I want to welcome Ralph Williams. Ralph is a Pitt media guy, and he has a show on the radio here in Western Pennsylvania. I've been on the show a few times. Ralph, thanks for popping in. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Joey.
Well, before you do, I want to go ahead. I want to just say, here's what I do know about this coaching hire. We'll know if it's Jimbo Fisher, we're going to know really quickly, and here's why. He's not recruiting anybody right now. He's not at another school, and if it's going to be Jimbo Fisher, we'll know here in the next few days. If we don't hear anything in the next few days, I'm pretty sure it's not Jimbo Fisher, and then you got to start looking somewhere like Rich Rod or Barry Odom or somewhere like that. And they're not going to do anything until probably after signing day. So, all right, go ahead, Shane.
No, I'm just going to say I want to talk a little smack about Penn State's coach. I don't know if you know the last game he played. I'm not going to get. He's classless. He ran the score up. They had no reason to score on that last 8 seconds. And Maryland's coach, I think, brought him in and. For that half handshake and told him he was going to whoop his ass. So, what goes around comes around, James Franklin. I just got to say that's classless. And it doesn't, you don't have to be a Big Ten fan, just a college football fan to notice that that's just a dirtball thing to do.
Yeah. I'm going to drop a link. See if anybody would like to come in here and make a comment or say something about whoever you think the next coach should be. Or anything about Neil Brown. Look, Neil Brown is a great guy. We've had him on this show a couple of times, Hell, I've got his phone number, and I've thought 50 times about texting him, today. But at the same time, probably best I don't just leave him alone. Look, I like Neil Brown. Neil Brown's a great guy, a good football coach. I hope he does get the job at UMass, and I hope he's successful. I really do. Because Neil Brown's a good guy. There's nothing against Neil Brown here at all. And even when I went out, I backed Neil Brown 100% for 5.5 years. But it was the end of the line this year, about halfway through the season. And then when I started hearing from my sources at West Virginia that he was done no matter what, after week 6 of this year, I knew that he was finished. And so Neil, though, I wish him nothing but the best. He's a good coach. We've got to get a coach in here now that can do something more. I was looking at something here. Pat McAfee tweeted he's been on the phone this evening. It's something special with phone
right now.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting because, like I say, we're going to find out for sure really quick. If it's Jimbo Fisher, we'll find out real fast. And that's how I feel because you're not recruiting anybody. And, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if they hire Jimbo, if they name Jimbo Fisher as the next head coach, even as early as tomorrow, and even say that he's going to be coaching in the bowl game because they've not announced who's going to coach in the bowl game yet. So that wouldn't surprise me a bit anyway. We got Mr. Ralph Williams in the back of the room with us. Hey, Ralph, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm doing real good. Thank you for having me.
Now, Ralph,
what's your thoughts?
Ralph is now. This is kind of a backhanded compliment, Ralph. Don't get pissed. Ralph is probably the smartest Pitt fan I have ever met.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. You're right, though. You're exactly right. So,
what do you think about this? I mean, as a non-West Virginia fan, but you follow a little bit of West Virginia sports. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't actually, because I'll tell you what, 2 years ago, when West Virginia came to Acrisure Stadium to play Pitt. I was sitting next to an alumnus from Georgia, and he was very heavily involved with the university. And he told me that Neil Brown was on eggshells. So I mean, and for him to for this guy who's a integral part of the alum to tell me this. I actually predicted it that he was on eggshells. I was actually quite surprised he made it this far. I thought then they were going to fire him or whatever, Yeah. But I have three names I want to throw out there. Tom Herman just got fired from Florida Atlantic. You also got Chip Kelly sitting out there. He's an offensive coordinator for Ohio State, and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for UCLA. You got those guys out there as well, just to throw into the hat a little bit. And I agree that maybe Jimbo Fisher could be a good fit to the program, but we'll see what happens because he didn't do very well down at Texas A&M.
That would be my thought is fitting into the program. I don't know that Chip Kelly fits the mold of a Mountaineer. I like Chip Kelly as a coach. I think he's a great coach. And who knows, he may come in and be the next Don Nehlen. Who knows? But at the same time, I can't see Chip Kelly taking the job at Morgantown. I can't even see it being offered to him.
Well, Dana Hogerson is working as an offensive coordinator and assistant somewhere. I think he's with Louisville.
Nebraska. He's at Nebraska.
Nebraska. I'm sorry, Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's working with
and they can keep him for sure.
Yeah. I heard some stories about him, man. It's crazy, some of the stories I heard. So
they can keep him. That's for sure. But yeah, he's in Nebraska now. But I do like some of the names you named there. But yeah, Kelly, I thought about that today myself. Ralph, that Chip Kelly. Hey, that would be a name. But then I got to thinking he just doesn't fit in to me as a Mountaineer.
Well, what you have to do is you have to get a guy who not only can coach but can recruit, and you got to get somebody who can also work with the NIL. I mean, and the transfer portal. You got that now. I mean, you have 4 different things that this coach needs to do. And if he can't recruit, he needs to go out and find assistants that can. That's the only way that a coach will be successful in college football now.
Well, in saying that means we have to give him some money to hire assistants.
Yes, exactly.
You can't just say, here's $3.5 million. That day is done and gone. You've got to get $6-7 million, even $8 million these days to hire assistants with. And if you're not going to do that, then you're not taking a step forward as a program, in my opinion. It's one thing to say, okay, it's one thing for them to go out here and let's just say they go out and grab a Jimbo Fisher, or even highly unlikely they grab a Nick Saban. But let's say they do grab a Nick Saban. Why would Nick Saban come when they give him $3.5 million to hire assistant coaches? Well, hell, that's what he paid his offensive coordinators.
Exactly.
You can't do that. You got to give them some money to be able to hire some coaches. And if we do that, here's what happens. If this university will take the step and say, okay, let's hire us a good coach and let's give him the money to hire some good assistants. Then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, we're in the Big 12. Then we're in the national spotlight. All of a sudden, enrollment goes up. The fan base gets excited. More fans come in.
Yes.
There's more money coming into the state. There's more money coming into Morgantown. There's more money coming in for enrollment, endowment fees, everything like that. All that stuff grows and the university grows. That's what the hell's going on in Alabama. Y'all think Alabama's got a lot to offer? No, they got a football team to offer.
Well, I'm going to give you an example of this, and you're right about that. Right after Walt Harris left the Pitt Panthers, they went out on an exclusive search looking for a head coach. They hired Dave Wannstedt, and Wannstedt was able to bring, for the 6 years he was there, he put butts in the seats. He was a good recruiter. Some of his, he's had bad habits over the years of trying to shove a square peg into a round hole as far as coaching goes. But I will say this, he was a good salesman of the university and a very good recruiter. And I wish he would still be here today if Steve Peterson didn't fire him on his second stint as athletic director.
So it's not okay golf out there saying, I truly believe the next football coach will be at the basketball game Friday night. I seen you saying that earlier. I think you said that over in Coos earlier. I think I seen you say it in Coos earlier. And then my first thought was, you must be talking about Jimbo Fisher, because there's no way any coach that's recruiting right now for another school, and that would be any of these coaches that we've talked about, other than Jimbo Fisher, they're at other schools right now and they're recruiting. They wouldn't be at the basketball game this very night.
Jimbo Fisher, you're right. He would put butts in the seats. And let me tell you something else. It would help recruiting because players know him from when he was at Florida State, Texas A&M, even though, like I said, he didn't do well there. But still, I mean, he could come to West Virginia and do way better than he probably did at Texas A&M. The university's going to have to give him some big money to bring in some good assistants. That's what's going to have to happen, like you mentioned.
Well,
stay here. I'm gonna bring Kenny Evans in with us too. He's in the back room. Kenny, come on in here with us. How you doing, Kenny? Shane, you've been trying to talk for 10 minutes and I've interrupted you every time, and I really apologize.
No,
Go for it, Shane.
Kenny, welcome. And guys, the only thing I have to say is, remember, that was one of the gripes Rich Rod had on why he left, trying to get more money for his assistants. And this was 10, oh my goodness, almost 15 years ago. So if he couldn't get money then, I hope the heck that the Mountaineer, athletic department has some purse strings for these assistants, because having that director of whatever you want to call it, NIL operations or recruiting, that's the key. That's the key to success. Having someone that can manage that portal, put the right players in front of the coach so that the staff can recruit, because it's like a revolving door with when the window opens. So I hope if Jimbo Fisher comes in, because he doesn't have a ball club, he doesn't have a roster like Kurt Signetti, that he has he has the contacts. He just needs the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. Shane, are they going to be willing to pay to even bring him in here? That's going to be the question.
Well, they don't have to pay him. You got to realize there's no way they could match his salary. There's no way they could match Jimbo Fisher what he's getting from Texas A&M already. He's getting $10 million over the next 7 years from Texas A&M. And anything he makes as a head coach comes off of that. So if we pay him $7 million, well, he still gets $3 million from this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he's still making $10 million. Yeah. So there's no win here for Jimbo Fisher whatsoever. There's no possibility. We would have to pay him $11 million a year in order for him to profit even $1 million a year, more than he gets sitting at home. So you have to realize that if he takes this job, it's because he wants this job and he wants to get back into coaching. And that's when I think he would do a great job for us. Number one, it would help us financially, because we could literally pay him $1 a year and say, okay, here's $1, and let Texas A&M pay for the other $9.9 million of him. And he'd still be a top 5 highest paid coach in the country. Y'all realize that? And be at Western University. So that's where Jimbo could be such a huge benefactor for West, or huge help for Western University right now. He wouldn't benefit a lot from it, other than being back in the coaching spotlight, and not only that, being the head man, the top man in West Virginia. The face of the Mountaineers, and that's what he'll like. Kenny, what's going on, man? What's your thoughts on all this?
Well, thank you guys for the show. Y'all do real good. I just like to see him get a coach that's going to win. This stuff of losing and tickets and people not being in games and the stadium not being packed is just crazy. It really is. And I think Jimbo would do good, like I said in the quote there, being from the SEC country, because if West Virginia was to get an invite, you got your foot in the door. Yeah. If you bring in some lower you're back in the same boat you're in right now. You might as well kept bringing.
Paxton, Jeff Moykanek will leave Army. There's no way. I agree. It would be a good hire. I think he's a great football coach, but he's an Army guy. But yeah, Kenny, you're right. We've got to get some experience in there. I know everybody wants to keep going with these experiences, this experiment of let's grab a great group of 5 coach or something like that. Look, when Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma and Texas and all these places go looking for head coaches, they don't look to group of 5 schools. They look for experience. They try to get the best offensive and defensive coordinators, people that are good recruiters, people that know what they're doing at the Power 5 level, and that's what they do, and that's what you've got to do to build a program. We've got to get out of this mindset that look, hey, let's look at this group of 5 coach. He's a great coach. Let's bring him in. Okay, yes, that's fine, but he's still not been at the Power 5 level of what we need at this point, in my opinion. Now Barry Odom has. I would be fine bringing Barry Odom in. I think Barry Odom could do a good job. Now, how's he going to navigate the NIL and transfer portal in Morgantown compared to what he can do at UNLV, because he don't have that much of an NIL and he don't have so what could happen there? That's where I look at things is like who's going to be the best one to steer us in the NIL thing? Guess what? There's nobody dealt with NIL more than Jimbo Fisher. Nobody, because Texas A&M's got a lot of money, and then they can pay some players, and he's had to put up with those personalities, those attitudes, people thinking they deserve more money or need more money. He knows what he's doing there, and that's why I think Jimbo would be such a great pick if we can get him.
You know, I've been to many games up there, and the stadium's been packed. And for West Virginia to be nationally televised, and stadium half full or a glass half empty, however in the world you want to look at it, is bad.
Yeah.
If you're not winning, they say winning cures everything. And as far as the players, if they bring Jimbo in and the players don't want to play for Jimbo, then we really don't need them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to bring their own regardless, and they're going to recruit their own regardless, and it's not really going to matter. You know, we've lost some good players over the years, but we've gained good players too. But if you don't want to be there and you don't have the passion for West Virginia football, then you don't need to be here.
So I see a lot of people out there in the chat, and a lot of people here that were on Golden Blue Dude and things. I'm talking about Golden Blue Dude and chat and how he would have 100 videos out already, and he'd be excited as crap. He would. Look, he wanted to fire Neil Clown. Remember the Clownsoneer. Remember the Clownsoneer?
Yep.
They wanted to fire Neil Clown, Neil Brown, years ago. I mean, after year 2, he was like, "I'm done. Hey, get him out of there." So, I mean, and he called me. He was like, "I bought a clown outfit," and I'm like, "For what?" He said, "For Neil Clown." He said, "I got a clown outfit, and I'm wearing it online." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, don't do that, man." He said, "Well, he's terrible," and I said, "Well, it's COVID year because we had COVID year going on." He didn't care, man. He put that outfit on. Now look. He was right? Neil Brown didn't have what it takes. It turns out that Golden Blue Dude was right about a lot of stuff that we thought he was all silly about at the beginning. Remember when he was talking about? Does anybody remember him saying Stanford? Get this. He said that Stanford and Cal would be in the ACC. Does anybody remember that video? He put a video out of it. Golden Blue Dude did. Stanford and Cal would be in the ACC, and everybody called him friggin' nuts. Guess where they are? In
the ACC.
He knew a little bit more about what he's talking about than people think, and he looked a lot deeper than what you think. He did a lot of homework.
Hey, listen, guys, I have to leave, but I'll talk to you some other time. Thank you for having me on.
Ralph, where can we see you at? Where can we see you?
Oh yeah, you can catch me on my YouTube channel, Ralph Williams RW Media. I have several shows on there, sports and wrestling, also general talk. And I also have a radio show in Pittsburgh, 1250 AM, 92.5 FM, The Answer, every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier, Claudia Rosano, and Luther Dupree. And you can also watch it wherever you are, anywhere, by getting on the 1250 AM website and watching it from 2 to 3, or go on Google, scroll down to Radio Stations USA and punch up the 1250 thing there with the arrow, and it'll come right on. You can watch it there as well. So ways to watch it numerous, no matter where you are. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, brother. Take care, man. Yeah.
So there's some great comments here, like Jeff Munkin. Okay, let me talk about Army for just 1 second. I worked there at the academy from 2003 until about 2007. Now I deployed from there for a year, so I wasn't there for a year. But That is a different animal. You don't have NIL. You don't. Okay. And then who you bring into your program has to pass the Army height and weight standard 4 months after they finalize their last game. So they play Navy on, say, next week, and then they have 4 months to lose weight. That is a hard place to win, and Monken has been killing it. They run that option like a surgeon using a scalpel. It's just amazing. So then they next chat in the chat they talk about Anthony Beck. There's so many great choices. I mean, Bren Baker has all kinds of options. This isn't like he just has Jimbo Fisher to pick. He has all these other folks that he's running through the list looking, So,
and there's not really, if we're talking about some of the names that we're talking about and some that the media is talking about, none of them are bad hires. In my opinion, none of them are bad hires. Even Rich Rodriguez, even though he didn't have success at Michigan and he didn't have tremendous success at Arizona, here he is back running one of the best offenses in the country at Jacksonville State. They're going to win Conference USA, or have they won Conference USA already? I don't know. They're leading Conference USA, I believe. I mean, so he has brought a program like Jacksonville State into a conference and winning that conference. So people that say he's washed up and stuff, you're wrong. You're wrong. So I think that he could be a great option for us. A Rich Rod. I would not have a problem at all seeing Rich Rod back in Morgantown. I really wouldn't. I would not have said that in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It took Neil Brown to drive me back to Rich Rodriguez.
That's true. That's so true. I did it. I'll tell you what, that Texas Tech game, the Pitt game, last year's Oklahoma State and Houston game, those are the ones that made me just wake up at night and have cold sweats. Like Rich Rod. Like you just saw a ghost. There he is. There's Rich Rod.
So Paxton's saying Rim probably already has this guy. Who do y'all think it is? Okay, here's my pick. Here's my pick on who the next coach of Western University will be. It will be Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher will come in, and there will be some kind of agreement. They obviously can't get by with just giving him $1. I mean, there would be a lot of red flags and a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. But giving him a couple of $1 million to come in, and he still makes $10 million because he's going to get $8 million from. If we give him $2 million, he's going to get $8 million from Texas A&M. So he's still going to get his $10 million, which still makes him a top 5 highest paid coaches in college football. And it's going to be at Western University. I think that's the reasons you take him. I think the reasons why is that he's dealt with NIL to a extent that's far beyond what we can imagine at Western University. The NIL he's had to deal with, and also
what is Neil Brown's buyout?
They'll negotiate that. I'm sure it's been negotiated down to probably about $6 million would be my guess. They probably negotiated it down. His buyout would have been 10, 12 million, something like that. They'll negotiate that. There's ways to negotiate that down. In other words, hey, we'll help you get another job. We won't say anything bad about you. We will talk about how great you've been for the program. You have built a great culture here. You have been a great recruiter. We will pass all this information on to UMass or Troy or whoever else that might want to hire you from this point forward. And all you have to do is agree to walk away with $6 million and we'll settle it. They could do that.
So that could be $6 million to Neil Brown, and then you got another 2, 3, 4, whatever to the incoming coach.
Well, not necessarily. You can. Yeah. So you got to remember, Neil Brown's can be taken off every years. It's not like he walks away and gets, even if they say $10 million, even if it's $10 million, it's not like they got to give him $10 million. he only gets that 10 million over a certain amount of years. So it might be over 8 years, and he only gets 800,000 a year.
Minus what the other school gives him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So if he goes to another school and he makes 1.5 million or 2 million there, and we're only giving him 800,000, it offsets it. So you can get away scot-free with these buyouts. That's the thing about it. And that's where they can negotiate it and say, look, we'll just go ahead and write you a check right now for $5 million to leave and just say done with it. And we're done with you. And we pay you $5 million. And you can go and be a coach anywhere you want to be. Or we'll give you 10 million, but we're going to pay it to you over the next 10 years. And we're going to give you $1 million a year. And it's going to offset. So if you go to somewhere and you're making 1.5 million, well, that 1 million is going to offset. So they can do that. So yeah, it can. That's why you would settle for less as a head coach. That's why you settle for less. That's why you can.
Does West Virginia have a cap for their coaching pay?
I don't think they have a per se cap. They probably have a budget, if that makes sense.
Sure, there's a budget.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a budget. There's a budget within the athletic department, and we're going to stick to that budget. Gordon Gee and them are going to set that budget, and Ren Baker has to stay within the budget within the athletic department. So that means you have to allocate so much to football, so much to basketball, so much to women's soccer and hockey, or whatever it might be. Which is
different from the donors, correct? So if a donor wants to pay $2 million or $4 million, and that wouldn't come off of the budget, correct?
Well, that's true. That's true to an extent, although it does run through the university. Some things like go through the university and become a part of their budget. So there is that aspect of it. So
the donor can say this: if there's excitement, okay, for example, Jimbo Fisher comes on board, donors are going to open up their pocketbooks because they're going to be excited. You get a no-name. I mean, even Rich Rod, I think you're going to have a polarizing effect. Some of the donors will literally say hell no to Rich Rod. And so it's kind of a mixed blessing there. And then you have some that are big Rich Rod fans that'll start forking over the cash. The big win with Jimbo is he hasn't burned any bridges like Rich Rod did.
Right.
So, then you get a no-name, or not even a no-name, like Jason Chandel, I think it is, from Toledo. Chandel, because Jamie Chiswell, or whatever it is, from Liberty.
Tidwell.
Those guys are both great coaches, but they won't bring the donors' excitement level won't go through the roof. So you want to get that. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about basketball for just 15 seconds. This past weekend, that 3-game stretch where they beat Gonzaga in overtime.
Right.
They Louisville. They were beating the hell out of Louisville if they could just close it. Took them to overtime and lost. Then they beat number 24 Arizona.
Yeah.
Those games were so important for the program monetarily because right now the donors that were kind of on the fence, big Bob Huggins donors, are like, whoa, wait a second. I get it. This looks good. They're gritty. They play defense. I like this. They're going to start the pocketbooks are going to start unzipping. So if you get a guy like Andy Kolenicki over at Penn State's offensive coordinator, you get him. He wins 8-10 games in the first 10 games in the first season, and he comes. Then you get that budget rolling. Yeah. So success breeds success, but I think it's easier with a big name guy. I know I went on a rant, and it was supposed to be 15 seconds, but I'm going to talk about basketball for 15 seconds.
It's like the golf says, I bet there's a chance we have same up one of 2 years to develop an upcoming young offensive coordinator as head coach. All right, so here's what my thought is on that. How come when I was on here just 3 weeks ago and I talked about, Neil Brown's out, who's going to be the next head coach? And I was talking about Jimbo Fisher, and I said, Jimbo Fisher will be the next head coach at West Virginia. Let's bring Nick Saban in as the next president of West Virginia after Gee.
Yeah.
Transition, so do that transition. And all of a sudden, you've got a powerhouse there between
Yeah.
Nick Saban as president and Jimbo Fisher as, and people were like, "Oh, you'll never get Nick Saban." But now all of a sudden, Nick Saban's in the spotlight in the conversation of becoming the head coach of West Virginia. And this isn't just me saying this. This is USA Today. This is ESPN. This is 365. This is everybody's talking about Nick Saban could be the next head coach at West Virginia. So now all of a sudden, my theory of Jimbo Fisher as head coach and Nick Saban as president are not just far-fetched. Look at Jim Tressel. He left Ohio State and he became a university president. Youngstown State done a fantastic job at Youngstown State. Absolutely fantastic job. And transitioned them into a power program for quite a while. So yes, it can be done. These college football coaches can become university presidents, and they can do a really good job. And Nick Saban, we know, could do a really good job as a transition president for Gee to get out of there and be gone. And plus you have a Jimbo Fisher as a head coach. So now, how logical is that? Maybe not real logical, but Jimbo Fisher is extremely logical as a head coach. And according to everybody else, Nick Saban is possible too. I don't think it's probable. I don't think it's likely, but I think it is possible Nick Saban could be, but most likely not.
In the chat, I want to tell you, I keep looking out on my phone because I have a guy on the end. Okay, on the end. He said to me, "I can't say who, but your head will effing explode." Quote. He said, "Your head will effing explode." He can't tell me who, but there's somebody who's that they're talking to that will literally, he said, make my head explode.
So I have got to tell you, I've got a really special guest backstage with me. This guy came on with me a couple of weeks ago. We did a show. We talked about head coaches. We talked about Jimbo Fisher. We talked about how great of a hire he'd be. This man can tell you the ins and outs of Jimbo Fisher. He can tell you everything you need to know. This guy has a YouTube channel called MLS Moves. He's a soccer guy. But he's also a college football fan. He's been around this network for a very long time. Mr. Will Forbes over at MLS Moves. What are you doing, Will? What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Hopefully, I didn't miss too much. Sorry, I'm a little late. I just saw your message like 10 minutes ago. I forgot that we were starting at 8 o'clock. But I feel like this is a good time to be excited, man. I think that there's hope for the West Virginia fans once again. And I'm excited to see who you guys hire.
Yeah, because you and I have been talking for quite a while about it could be Jimbo Fisher, and we've been called crazy. And I don't know whose mic that is. I think it might be you, Kenny. I'm gonna mute you for a second, Kenny, because I keep hearing somebody talking in the background. But we keep hearing me and you talked about Jimbo Fisher being the head coach of West Virginia, and we were being called crazy and everything else. This is 3 weeks ago. We were being called crazy. It would never happen. There's no way Jimbo Fisher would come to Morgantown. Now here he is, a leading candidate, along with who else? Who did we talk about? Tell them who we talked about, Will. Who else did we talk about that would be in there for West Virginia?
Nick Saban.
And also leading candidate right now, according to a lot of places, as a possible head coach for West Virginia. And just like I said, Jimbo Fisher might be the head coach of West Virginia, and Nick Saban coming in as the president. Will, we talked about all this. Tell them a little bit about Jimbo Fisher. How did you convince me so much about Jimbo? So tell me something. Jimbo Fisher, we think of him at Florida State, how good he did. He won a national championship, great. But then everybody thinks of him going to Texas A&M, and he just had this downfall. Like he should have been on top of the world. He had number one recruiting class for 3 years in a row. I mean, he should have been right there, and he just couldn't get past the SEC and win the SEC to get into the championship games.
Well, I think I heard Shane. I think I heard Shane mention before I hopped on here that Andy Kotelnicki was a coach that maybe some West Virginia fans want because he's had a good season at Penn State. I don't think that's a good route, not because he can't be a good coach, but because he's unproven. Being a head coach is completely different than being a coordinator. You're the CEO of a team, a lot more responsibilities, have to play more of the political game, talk to the donors more, just completely different. And that's where I think a Jimbo Fisher thrives. He's a West Virginia man, born and bred. He knows all the big people there. He knows how to sell the state. And on top of that, he knows how to win. He dominated the ACC when the ACC was, I would say, in its heyday, better than what it is right now. Clemson and Dabo Swinney were winning multiple national championships. He had all but one good season there. And people say, man, he failed at Texas A&M. Why would we want him? He had a 45-25 record at Texas A&M, competing with Georgia winning national championships, competing with Alabama winning national championships, competing with LSU winning national championships. It's not like just anybody can win at Texas A&M. It's tough. These are the best teams in the country. And I think that Jimbo Fisher knows how to get West Virginia back to where it needs to be and sell the program better than anyone else can do it. You need a salesman, someone who can make people believe that this program can win again, and he can recruit his ass off. And I think that it's special and personal to him because this is his home state team. I believe you need someone like that.
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Amen. We've went down the road of buying a stock when it's like $3 a share. Our Dana Holgersons, our Neil Browns. We need something that's proven, something that might have took a little bit of a downturn, but we know it's a long-term winner. And Jimbo Fisher is that. We know he has a natty. Guys, he went into he won the ACC, which you just talked about, okay, and a natty. And there were good teams there. But he was thrown into Texas A&M, which is probably the strangest place to coach in the SEC. That place is just all kinds of different, okay? Square peg, round hole. Difficult culture and a difficult conference. LSU was at the peak or, coming off the peak. Alabama was as good as it's ever been or ever going to be as a program. And we're talking 96 Nebraska. This is how good the Alabama teams were when Jimbo was at A&M. Okay. And imagine right there, there's 2 losses. If you have maybe even a good squad, it just right there, 2 losses, not to mention, you're going to have maybe a good Mississippi State team, or maybe you're going to have an Arkansas team that comes in with chip on their shoulder, because as we found out in the Big 12 this year, that's you're going to have teams beat up on each other. That's what you have in the SEC year in and year out. But what you forget is you have a dominant team like Alabama or LSU or Georgia that just are so much better than everybody else. You don't see that parity, okay, because it's such a big jump up to those guys. He was successful. He had a winning record at A&M. And
45-25. 20 wins more. But hey, Shane, better record at A&M than Neil Brown had at West Virginia.
Let me ask you a question. Can you look this up real quick, Will? How many teams in let's just say in the last 3 years at Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher's last 3 years at Texas A&M, how many top 25 teams did he beat?
Well, off the top of my head, I know that he did beat Nick Saban when they were number 1 because he was the first former Nick Saban assistant to ever beat him.
How many top 25 teams has Neil Brown beat in 6 years?
0, right?
0. How many teams with a winning record did we beat this year?
I think 0 because TCU or Cincinnati lost to TCU.
We didn't beat anybody with a winning record this year.
But that's not
so. Anybody wants to talk about hey, Jimbo Fisher? He can't win. Are you crazy? He can win too. He can beat top 25 teams. He did it. He did it at Florida State. He did it at Texas A&M. He could do it again. Look, Texas A&M's the aspirations at Texas A&M are huge. They have huge aspirations. They think they should be in the hunt for the national championship every single year. We don't think that. We just want to win a Big 12. Right now, that's all West Virginia wants. We want to win a Big 12 championship. We do want to make playoffs, and if we win the Big 12 championship, we get the playoffs. But that's all we ask for. We just want to win Big 12 championships every 2 or 3 years.
You know what else he did, though, Joey? Joey, another thing that he did, too, on top of winning the national championship, I think people forget this. Jimbo Fisher was one of the first 4 teams ever to make the NCAA college football playoff. One of the first 4 teams ever. It was Ohio State, Bama, Oregon, and Florida State. So he was in the likes of Nick Saban and Urban Meyer, both college football legends. That's who he was in the discussion with when he was leading Florida State back then. And unfortunately, he didn't win it, but he made it. And that's what West Virginia needs. They need stability. I'm not saying that Jimbo Fisher is going to win a national championship at West Virginia, but your floor just raised probably to 8 wins a season, bare minimum, with special seasons where 10, 11 wins.
Yep.
And he could absolutely run the Big 12 for as long as he wants to stay there. The money, the players, go look at those recruiting classes A&M had. Go look at those recruiting classes he had at Florida State. He's going to bring some of that charisma, that talent to West Virginia, and that's going to make you guys better than probably all the other teams in the Big 12.
Yep, I agree.
Here's
I agree.
the
And
thing.
not only that, we were talking about this earlier. Shannon and I were talking about this earlier. How it brings up, if you bring in a Jimbo Fisher, and all of a sudden you start winning a few games, all of a sudden the enrollment goes up at West University. The fan base is excited. Everybody's getting back involved. There's more money pouring into Morgantown. There's more donor support. There's more people joining Country Roads Trust, right? I know I'm a member of Country Roads Trust. I hope everybody is. But if you're not a member of Country Roads Trust, I encourage you more than ever right now, join Country Roads Trust, because they're going to need the money to hold on to the players. Players will start jumping for the transfer portal, so we need to support our NIL program to be able to hold the players there and keep it. We don't want Nico leaving, right? I mean, we want to keep Nico around for sure. So we've got to join in with that. But yeah, I mean, Jimbo can do a lot. Somebody like Jimbo or a Nick Saban can do a lot for West Virginia University. But that's just it. We're asking them for something. What do we have to offer them? Other than Jimbo Fisher getting back into coaching, I don't know of much. We don't really have anything to offer Nick Saban. Nick Saban's accomplished everything. Go ahead.
I gotta talk to Eric here. Eric's one of the most positive people I know. Okay. But I'm going to tell you this, Eric. I'm certain. You look back to a guy named the Grom. You know who that guy is? I don't know. Maybe he has a few Super Bowl rings. Played at Arizona. Big tight end. 3-star recruit. Some people had him as a 2-star recruit. Okay. Those are the type of guys that Jimbo Fisher's going to bring into Morgantown. He's not going to bring the 5-star, big head, can't fit through the shoulder, through the door, big ego. He's not going to get those guys. He's going to get 3-star, maybe some 4-star talent that have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. I think Jimbo could recruit at West Virginia. He might not have penthouse budget, okay, but he has penthouse dreams. Remember that saying? Your grandmother told you, penthouse dreams, outhouse budget. West Virginia is not in the outhouse anymore. They got a little bit of money, and Jimbo Fisher is going to be able to open those purse strings, and the Mountaineers are going to be given. Because guess what? If Brown was retained, I wasn't going to get season tickets next year. I didn't even go to the last couple games, and I just let the tickets sit and waste because I could give 2 craps. I didn't want to freeze my ass off and watch the Mountaineers suck. I could sit at home and watch the Mountaineers suck. So, Jimbo, I'll watch you in the cold weather because I know you can turn it around. That's just it. That's my promo.
And also, too, Shane, doesn't that get you excited as a fan just to have a guy who bleeds blue and gold and wants to help the program get back to its heyday? And he will take, it's not just a guy collecting a check, it's a vested interest. He cares about the program. He wants to see it succeed. And how cool would that be to build his legacy where he does have a national championship when everybody's counting him out to go back home and help his team become good again?
He could be
on that note. I can remember the great man, Delbert Wolfman Wolfley. So him and I and a couple other people, we were doing a show. It was a big program show. It was going to be a big ESPN back thing. I was producer on it and stuff. It was going to run and things. Anyway, we sat there. Me and Wolfley were sitting there talking one day. And we were talking about this very situation about coaches at West Virginia and about a possibility of ever having a Nick Saban or a Jimbo Fisher. And he told me flat, he said, don't never count something like that out, because the simple reason is we're a big program. In a lot of people's eyes, in the media's eyes, may not be that big of a program, but in a head football coach's eyes, this is a major program. That's a 15th winningest program in college football history, that has had some of the greatest of all time play the game, including Major Harris and Jeff Hostetler, Tavon Austin, Stedman Bailey. You go back through. We've had some really great players through the years. Geno Smith, who's still tearing it up in the NFL today. So this is a very historic program, and this is a big time program for a head coach. Any head coach would want this job, and that's what he told me. Any head coach. He didn't say some. He didn't say most. He said any head coach would want this job at Western University. So I hear a lot of people saying this is not a glamorous job. I think you're wrong.
Joey, what if Jimbo Fisher did the reverse Bobby Bowden, started off at Florida State and finished at West Virginia, where Bobby Bowden started at West Virginia and finished at Florida State? That'd be pretty interesting, right? That'd be pretty cool. And that was his mentor.
Yeah, bring us about 3 national championships. I'll be really happy. Oh yeah, the Jimbo.
But that would be cool. That'd be a cool story, wouldn't it? That'd be cool to see something like that happen. Obviously, because of Jimbo's ties to Bobby Bowden, and then obviously his ties to the school and the state. I mean, it just makes too much sense. There is no coach out there outside of Nick Saban, obviously, because of him being from there and on all his success. But as far as Jimbo, I just don't see how there's a more perfect hire than him, guys. I just don't see it. I think he checks all the boxes of what you need. And West Virginia are able to get a national championship winning coach. Are those in abundance? Do you see many of those out there? There are very few of them. And to be able to get one is crazy.
Let's look at this as from the administrator's views. All right. So from the administration view, they're going to look at this as okay, now we've got to rebrand. Do we want to rebrand with Jamie Chadwell? All right. Let's just say we rebrand with a Jamie Chadwell, or we can rebrand with a Jimbo Fisher. Okay. Now we got to look at another thing too. How about graduation rate and retention here? We want to retain these players. Who do we want to hire? Do you want to hire Jimbo Fisher? Are the players more likely to stay when they hear the name Jimbo Fisher is coming to Morgantown, or are they going to stay when Jamie Chadwell is announced, or if Barry Odom's announced, or Shannon Dawson, or Rich Rodriguez, whoever it might be? Which one of these coaches is going to retain the players? Because not only are you retaining an athlete, a football player, but you're retaining a student, right? And you want to keep that student body there, and you want to keep it in place, and you want to keep your culture in place, right? The culture that's set there. So they've got to look at all that too. Which one has the right frame of mind to run the culture at West Virginia? There's nobody better than Jimbo Fisher, because Jimbo Fisher, number one, is a West Virginia guy. He's from Clarksburg. He's literally 30 minutes. He's less than 30 minutes away from Morgantown. You could you could throw a rock from Morgantown to Clarksburg on a windy day, So I mean, he's right there. He knows the area, and so you've got to look at that and think, okay, this is absolutely the best hire we could get. And if he wants this job, and we're all hearing that he wants this job, why not give it to him? There's no reason not to. None.
There's absolutely no reason. I can't see like I go through a list, and it's like you can't really find 3 negatives to make you, other than, and people are saying he's 59. That's not that old. I mean, you have coaches coaching into their 70s and still kicking ass and taking names. So he
coached till he's 72.
Right. So you're telling me if West Virginia had Jimbo for 12 years, they're not going to be competitive?
Yeah.
How old was Nick Saban? Do you know how old Nick Saban was when he took that Alabama job?
Well, let's see. He took it in 2007, so that would have just been 15 years ago.
He was 56. 56 when he took that job. So, and think of all the success he had.
Right here. Yeah. That's just it. He's been very successful there. So, you look at the age here, I don't really feel that that's a problem. But I'm going to go back to Joey and I were talking to 2 parents of Division I athletes We're talking a Baylor and Ohio State football player. Okay, both these kids play. I asked them, what are the criteria that you look at when you go through a program? Is it Penn State's Creamery, the delicious ice cream? She said that was great, but they have a great weight room. Was it swag? Because, there are some programs that have great swag, like Texas, great locker rooms. Those all were important. Education, the degree, all of that, really nice. But those are all like icing on the cupcake. But the meaty part of the cupcake was stability. Coaching stability is what was the most important thing to both of those boys. Even though they had a little different criteria, the most important thing, stability. So if you have a Jimbo Fisher that is proven as a Power 5 coach, that adds that little bit of stability for a first-year coach that you didn't have before. Right?
I agree.
But there's also, you got to realize he don't have the pressure. He wouldn't have the pressure on him at Western University that he had at Texas A&M either. There was so much pressure on him. He didn't get to run that program. He didn't. The donors ran that program. The donors still run that program. The coach is the coach. But as far as running the program down there at Texas A&M, it's a lot different than running the program at Western University. It really is.
Another coach I would compare this to if they hired Jimbo Fisher, another coach who coached a big program in Florida, had a lot of success, got ran out of town, took off.
You're going to say Dan Mullen, aren't you?
No, I'm going to say Urban Meyer. They ran him out of town. They said, we don't want you anymore. They had a website, fireurbanmeyer.com, after 1 8-5 season. He took a year off, went to Ohio State. The rest was history. His record at Ohio State, where people said he was done, they said he would never be good at Ohio State, that he was a fluke at Florida. He didn't know how to win. The game had passed him and that Nick Saban had owned him. His record in 7 seasons at Ohio State, where he went back to his home state to coach the biggest team in his home state, was 83-9. He only lost 9 games.
Here's the problem with Urban Meyer. You never know when he's going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something, because he has this figment of imagination where he says, okay, look, I got a brain tumor. I got to get out of coaching college football. I've got heart problems. I got to get out of coaching college football. And it's just like out of the blue, because he gets in a little bit of trouble. He grabs some girl's ass. He does something stupid, whatever it might be.
He's definitely a scumbag.
He's a scumbag. Why would you want to? I don't want a scumbag. I don't.
No. He just. I'm talking only on the field performance, though. And another thing too that I think some people don't realize about Jimbo is Jimbo has 4 New Year's Six Bowl wins. He's got like 2 or 3 Orange Bowls of and then the national championship. So the guy is just a winner. 83-23 record at Florida State in the prime of the ACC in 8 seasons. 83-23, 45-25. Okay, if Neil Brown was at Texas A&M, I don't even know if they would have won 3 games in the season. So that's not even. There's no comparison of how. And Neil, I told Joey this on the phone because we've been talking a lot, and I mentioned this with the Koldenecki thing. They cannot afford to not only hire a coordinator, they can't hire another group of 5 coach. They need a guy who is proven. Like some people were saying that John Summerall from Tulane, that would be another mistake and a big gamble. And they can't take any more gambles, guys. They got to get this right now. They have to turn this program around because obviously Holgorsen left it in a bad state. And hell,
wait a minute, wait. Who banned Bean? I just seen Bean has been banned in the comment section. No, don't ban Bean.
I didn't ban Bean.
I don't know who banned Bean. We don't ban people here.
My thumb must have hit that. I was trying to type something in for my bad.
Oh, okay. Bean, if you're still watching, Bean, you won't be able to comment, but I'll take care of you, man. You're not banned. You come on back, Bean.
That's my bad.
Love you, brother.
I have to go back together, and I have a finger that always catches the freaking keys. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Sorry, Will.
No, you're good. I just think that they got to get this right. They can't take a chance. Holgorsen obviously was a disaster and left the program in a bad state. I think Neil Brown's arguably left it in a worse state when he leaves here. He's not left it any better than when he found it. It's probably worse.
Yeah.
And those donors, man, Joey, we talk about those donors. Jimbo's going to be able to get them donors to pony up.
So let me say this: Neil Brown has left the program, honestly, in my opinion, better than what he found it. And here's why I say this: Dana Holgorsen recruited a whole lot out of transfer portal, and we got a lot of players out of transfer portal. We were becoming a Kansas under Dana Holgorsen, and that's what Charlie Weiss did at Kansas. He just kept recruiting the portal and grabbing people out of the portal, trying to build a team with it. And that works. And you can build a team and have a good team. And he did that in 2018. Then Holgorsen did that in 2017. And then it became a pretty good team in 2018. He still couldn't do a lot with it, but still it was a good team. But that was all portal players. About everybody on that team was a portal player. And you can't build a program like that because it really hurts you. So what Neil Brown took over was a depleted Mountaineer squad that had absolutely nothing coming into 2019. And so he had to build from scratch. Now he had some players there, don't get me wrong. There were some players there and they were scholarship players, but they had no experience whatsoever. They didn't know anything really about college football. They had never taken a snap. So he pretty much had to start from scratch. So Neil Brown is leaving a program better than what he found it. I don't want anybody to think that he's leaving us worse off. He might be leaving us worse off in the record books if we look at it in that perspective, but better off as a program than we were back then. So. Bean got bean, Dave Brown said. Yeah, we're blaming Shane. Bean, I'm blaming Shane, and I can't get in there and unblock you right now. And I apologize. So you can't comment tonight,
do that.
But Bean, you're not banned.
I want to give a shout out to Steelers Dynasty Podcast. I had a show earlier today. We were watching Steelers Watch Party, the Steelers Dynasty Podcast. If you're a Steelers fan, Bubba Brewer and me were watching it. That's when I found out that Coach Brown has been fired. I was literally getting ready to get in the car, take my kid to his football banquet. And Joey called me. He's like, yo, we got to do a show. So 8:00, here we are. But I'm going to tell you this. And Bubba said this earlier. Western Pennsylvania is a better place when Pitt and West Virginia have good football coaches. It's just the way the world is. It's just the world rotates just a little bit better if West Virginia is playing good ball. And
well, hopefully West Virginia will hire one now. I don't know about when Pitt's going to hire one, but hopefully West Virginia is going to hire one right now. I can't tell you when Pitt's going to probably hire a coach. That's a joke.
That would be my first pick. Guys, go around the table here. Who would be your first pick?
Who was your first pick?
I would say Jimbo, number one.
Jimbo. I've been telling Joey about. I've been trying to sell Joey on Jimbo for damn near a year now. I mean, we've been talking about this because I just had obviously last year was good for West Virginia, but I was an outlier. I don't think that was the true story of what was going to happen. I thought the wheels were going to fall off. I actually have a family friend who's on staff. He's a position coach. I don't want to name any names, but I have a friend who's on the offensive staff as a position coach, and told me things. Just I don't know. They were still skeptical about things.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, without a doubt, Jimbo Fisher, my first choice as head coach. Barry Odom would be my second choice as head coach, because I just want some experience, and Barry Odom has some experience, and Barry Odom's a good football coach. So that would be my two choices. I would go after Jimbo. If you can't get after Jimbo, I would go after Barry Odom as mine. Now, if you'd asked me 1 year ago from today, I would have told you Tom Herman. I love Tom Herman. Tom Herman is gone down there wherever he was, Florida Atlantic or wherever he was fired. But Tom Herman's a good football coach. Now, can he deal with this NIL age and all this stuff? But you think about what he did at Houston, and he had Texas going, and they fired him. They just up and fired him, and he had Texas going. They were ready to explode, and they just up and fired him. So Tom Herman is a lot better coach than what you might think. So I like Tom Herman too, but Tom Herman apparently is not even in this conversation. So
what's the timeline?
We don't know who
think?
can make.
What do you think the timeline is on this? Do you think it's going to be announced in the next 2 weeks?
I think
game?
if it's Jimbo Fisher, it's going to be announced as early as tomorrow and as late as maybe Wednesday.
Really?
Because I think it's going to come early because Jimbo don't have a job right now. We need a coach for the bowl game, and also on top of that, we need to save our recruiting class and save the players that are there. We need to have some player retention. So if it's Jimbo, I think it's done early. Now, if it is a Barry Odom or someone like that, I can see that coming after signing day because for the reason they're not going to want to, they're not going to leave their respective programs where they've got a recruiting class coming in. They're not going to want to hurt their program that they're at right now and just leave before that recruiting class is signed. So I think that would be announced after signing day. But if it's Jimbo Fisher, I think the earlier the news, if you're a Jimbo Fisher fan, you want Jimbo Fisher, the earlier the news, the better. If Brim Baker schedules a press conference tomorrow for 2:00, it's a good chance Jimbo Fisher's the next head coach.
Now, Joey, me and you talked about this a couple weeks ago. Do you think that – so it's a rare circumstance because A&M owes Jimbo like $70-80 million. So whatever – he's making $9 million a year. So West Virginia has a rare opportunity where they could pay him a $1 million or $2 million, and he's still making $9 million. It just offsets the difference. But one of the concerns you had was, are they going to give him the money to build a good staff? Because that's just as important as anything. Are they going to give him the assistant salary pool he needs to build a good coaching staff? I'm sure that he's going to want some promises before he officially takes the job. But I think of any coach, he's going to get the biggest salary pool of probably anyone that would come here. Absolutely. I don't think they'll probably give him everything he needs to succeed or try to be fair as they possibly can be.
I think at these days, as a coach, you need a $6 million salary pool at the minimum. I think $6 million,
if not more. Yeah.
Go ahead, Shane.
No, I was going to say, like, both him and Rich Rod would come in with demands of, I need this staff in order to be successful. Would Jamie Chiswell be able to do that? Or, I don't know, but they probably have their own folks to bring over. But here's the thing with Jimbo. You're going to have to open up those purse strings to be successful. And it's a little easier when you're getting a deal. I mean, think about the money. We talked about this on a show, Joey, if you remember. And Will, you probably know what we're talking about. The amount of the value. We asked the question, how much marketing and publicity did Deion Sanders bring to Colorado? And they put a price tag on it after about a year. Okay. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like $100 million or something crazy like that. Okay. We were trying to figure it out, Joey, on our show. What is the amount of publicity that West Virginia will be the darling, the absolute darling. Put a bow around them. Put a poster of West Virginia fans on every college magazine out there because that will be the story if Jimbo Fisher is hired. That's it. Put a bow on it. He has an opportunity to become a coaching legend if he can turn West Virginia around. He doesn't have
just
to
imagine, and that could be good for West Virginia. Exactly right. Imagine if these rumors are out there true that we have a chance for Nick Saban. Could you imagine if we could hire Nick Saban and what the front pages of every sports magazine in the country are going to say tomorrow? Watch out. There's a new powerhouse arising in college football, and his name is West Virginia, which was what was said in 1988 under Don Nehlen. CBS Sports announced that. Now, I think, and this is the thing about it. There's some big ifs here, right? Will Jimbo Fisher, number one, come to West Virginia for essentially no money? Essentially free, because they can't pay more than $10 million. And yes, it does offset. So if he makes $1 million at West Virginia and he's getting $9 million for Texas A&M, now all of a sudden he's only getting $8 million for Texas A&M and $1 million from West Virginia. He's still going to make $9 million regardless. Now it's going to offset. So how will that affect his decision? How would that affect, even if they offer to Jimbo, and even though Jimbo has even told people in his inner circle, and it's gotten around to all of us eventually, that hey, I'm very interested in this job. How interested is he, and is he interested enough to take that job for absolutely zero extra income? That's the thing about it. There would be absolutely zero extra income because West Virginia is not going to pay him $11 million a year so he can turn a profit.
No, well, also too, I think one of the things that's appealing to a Jimbo for this job, I'm not saying Nick Saban wouldn't do it, but I think it's less likely because he's 73 years old. He retired from Bama. I think he's done. I think he's just going to be calling games. He's not going to be, coaching games anymore.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they
named
their stadium after him.
Exactly. He's done with coaching. One of the things that I think is appealing for a Jimbo, on top of all the things we listed about, saving his home state university, is the fact that the Big 12 is wide open. There is no elite team right now. There is no team running it. We saw it this year. It was a bloodbath. Everybody was just beating each other up. He could come in here with some good recruits, a good staff, and really run the Big 12 like he did in his Florida State days. That's very possible. I think he could have a quick turnaround even year one. Like if Jimbo's hired tomorrow, guys, I'm expecting the floor to be 8 wins in year one. I believe that would happen. I don't know what the schedule is. I'll have to go look. It's out for the next 2 years. Say what?
I was looking it up right now when you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that they got it. I mean, obviously they got the 3 non-cons. Do they play Pitt again next year?
No.
So we don't have a call or screen thing, but I'm gonna put this up for just a second. I'm gonna bring our next caller in, Jacob. Jacob, how you doing, brother?
Good. Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here. You doing all right?
Yeah. Can I explain something real quick?
Sure.
Here's my thoughts on Jimbo Fisher, and they're all good points. Now, if we look at the Big 12 as a whole, right? Now, every time I watch the Big 12, I've seen nothing but, some teams have a defense, but they're mediocre. Now, me saying that, Jimbo would bring in a really, really strong defense, which the Big 12 has never have. It's never had a really good defense out there. Me thinking that would be a really good thing for WVU because then it would be at the top of the league. And defense.
Back to 96, they had the number 1 defense in the nation for most of that season. They held Miami to the only touchdown they got was off a blocked punt. It was literally they were winning, what was it, 10 to 3 or 7-3. West Virginia was winning and they blocked the punt. Miami did and ran in for a touchdown. That was won the game. So actually got beat by a field goal and defensive touchdown. That defense was fantastic. So, there has been some really good defenses in the Mountaineer history, just not in the last 20 years, I guess you could say. That haven't been so.
If I look at the like a dream coaching scenario at West Virginia University for me right now would be Jimbo Fisher as head coach, Jeff Castillo as defensive coordinator. Bring in a Dana Holgerson or a Rich Rodriguez or somebody like that as an offensive coordinator, and then as a special teams coach, I don't know, just grab whoever the hell you want to, really, as far as I'm concerned, with special teams. But that would be a dream scenario team for me to bring those guys in, to bring in a Jimbo Fisher as a head coach, a Dana Holgerson or a Rich Rodriguez as an offensive coordinator. And then bring in a Jeff Castillo or a oh my gosh, how come I've lost his name, Shane? NC State, West Virginia's and then went to NC State. Right here, our deepest got
Tony Gibson.
Tony Gibson, yes, thank you, Jacob. Tony Gibson.
Thank you.
Damn, I don't know why I lost his name. Jeff Castillo and Tony Gibson together. They are absolutely are amazing together. Look at go ahead, Shane. Shout it out, man.
So Mark from Steelers Nation Australia just gave us a $20 super chat. So I want to give him a shout out. And Mark is flying in. He's a Steelers super fan. He's flying in from Australia to watch a Steelers game and come to Bubba and my Christmas party, December 21st at McFadden's. So
That's awesome.
shout out to Mark. He's flying in from Australia. That's not a cheap ticket, and that's not a cheap super chat. Thanks again, Mark from Steelers Nation Australia. If you love Steelers football, check his show out. He's fantastic. And he really is from Australia. He isn't from like some place in Pittsburgh where they talk funny. That's not the case.
He's not from New Zealand. He's not from New Zealand, is he? He's not one of the New Zealand people that says they're from Australia, is he?
Yeah, and he's not from
I've met a few of those.
Yeah.
I've met a few people from New Zealand who say they're from Australia. I'm like, they're not even there. Yeah, what are you talking about? You're from Australia.
and my next thing is on Jimbo would be his winning record. I mean, if you look in the Big 12, I mean, he's gone 10-2. Well, 10-2 gets you in the Big 12 playoffs. Well, I mean, his weakest season is he's won 8 games. I mean, that can almost get you into the playoffs. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, either one of them records gets you into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
I think that Jimbo Fisher could be to West Virginia what Nick Saban was to Bama. People forget how down bad they were. Alabama was very, very down in 2007. I think Bobby Bowden's son was actually the coach. Was it Terry Bowden, I think?
Terry.
Yeah. And it was an absolute disaster when he took over. And so I think that there could be something similar than that, like that. But obviously, I think West Virginia is in a better spot than when Saban took over Bama in 2007. And like you said, he's got, I think you said 10-2 against Big 12 teams. I think that he could run the Big 12 and make them kind of like a Clemson of the ACC, obviously before the NIL where they were just completely running it. And also too, look at all the coaches there out of all the Power Four conferences. The Big 12 is going to have the most turnover guys with most fired coaches. There could be up to 5 Big 12 teams that fire their coach. Cincy could fire their coach. Oklahoma State could fire Gundy. Obviously, West Virginia did fire.
Can you imagine
Neil
that,
Brown.
though, Will? Can you imagine that? Mike Gundy. I mean, here's a coach that's more story. This is more story coach than really. This is a Don Nehlen coach, right? Right. Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy is the same as Don Nehlen at Western University. Can you imagine Oklahoma State firing him? They should be building statues about this guy outside their stadium, in all honesty.
I think
this guy has taken Oklahoma State to the top.
Hey, Will, it was Mike Shula. I just want to, Mike Shula.
Okay, Mike Shula is what it was. I knew it was
Auburn.
I knew it was a famous coach's son. I just couldn't remember which one it was. But I think that Mike Gundy will get fired, guys, and here's the reason why. It's the first time that they've had a losing season in his tenure. He lost every single conference game 0-9 this season. Worst possible scenario you could have. And the one thing that I think it makes it really likely is he has a clause in his deal that every passing January, it adds another year to his deal. So it's not like in 2 years, if he sucks, they're going to save any money by firing him. No matter when they fire him, they're going to have to pay him $25 million. There's no way to get out of it. So that's the reason why I think that they'll move off. And I think that's
the reason they'll wait another year. I think one bad season is not going to be enough to fire him. That's why I think they'll wait at least another year.
But this is the worst you could do, Joey, losing every.
But there's 25 million reasons, Will, to keep him there for another year.
And also, too, and I'll tell you another reason why people aren't talking about this enough. This year's another rare circumstance because there's not going to be any big-time Big Ten jobs opening up. There's not going to be any big-time SEC jobs opening up. So this Oklahoma State, West Virginia is going to be what is considered a big job open up this offseason. Are you really wanting to compete with a Michigan next year or a Penn State next year or, a LSU next year? Is that who you're wanting to compete with to get these coaches? Or would you rather compete with a UCF? Like they're gonna have a better chance to get a good coach this year if they fire him now.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. This is what's gonna push the needle. It's not Joey. It's not Will. It's not Shane. It's the donors in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So Perry Elford's is in the chat. I know, and he lives in Moore, Oklahoma, and he has a pulse of what's happening at the Oklahoma University, and Oklahoma State. I wish he would comment and let us know. what he thinks is going to happen with Mike Gundy.
Shane, I'll be right back. I'll be right back, everyone.
Yeah, I had to pop off to blow my nose. Because
I got something else to say about Nick Saban.
Yeah, go ahead.
My thing is with Nick Saban, this is an idea. I'm not sure West Virginia would do it or not, but I've been thinking about it. Nick Saban could come in, be the head coach until July, because that's when Gee's contract is up. Am I correct?
Yeah, well,
and then he could step back and be the president and put in Fisher.
Yeah, I don't think Nick Saban wants the headache of being a president when he can make a buttload of money being a commentator on college football and hang out with Pat Mack. So,
yeah,
hanging out with Patty Mack and watching him kick those field goals, I will pay you to go do that every weekend. I swear. I will pay whatever. I'll give you half of my salary if I can follow Patty Mack around and watch people kick field goals for $200,000, because that is the best job. The best job, probably next to like the Hawaiian Tropics, like Oil Kid puts on the sunscreen for all those models. That would be probably the best job. The second would be following Patty Mack around.
Yeah, and also too, I don't think Nick Saban's going to take any job for 6 months. I think he's just going to do what he's doing, and support West Virginia in any way he can from an outsider perspective. But Shane, I just think that it just makes too much sense, man. I'm rooting for you guys to get Jimbo. It's like it's a beautiful gift is falling into your lap. A coach, one of the better coaches in the last 2 decades, has a tie to your program because he's where he's from, West Virginia, that wouldn't come to West Virginia as his first choice if another job opened up. But because of his ties to the state, he really wants that job. It's like a dream job for him. It's like the stars are aligning, man. And it would just be a huge disappointment if they didn't capitalize on that and see where it goes. Now, I'm not saying Jimbo is going to come in there for sure and just, be the best coach you ever had, but I think gives you a better chance than anyone else that's out there can, what they can do. He can do it. I think he has a better chance of succeeding than anyone else.
So Perry,
and my second candidate would be Rich Rod, because hear me out on this.
Okay.
You bring in Rich Rod, okay? Who's Rich Rod really connected with? He's connected with Pat McAfee really well, right?
True.
Because he was his mentor, pretty much, his coach, everything. So you bring in Rich Rod, you're bringing in Pat McAfee, then Pat McAfee can bring in Tavon Austin, which is everyone's idol because he's played for almost a whole bunch of NFL teams. So recruits are going to be like, wow, okay, Tavon Austin's there. I want to go play for this guy. And yeah, Rich Rod's going to bring all them guys with him because they were his kids.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not big on Rich Rod coming back. I just don't think going down old avenues is the best method. I think getting to do something different.
Yeah.
Historically, if you go rehire an old coach, it doesn't normally work out very well. I think they need to go in a new direction. Not to say you can't be appreciative of like the Steve Slayton and the Pat White days, because they were some of the best days, probably the best days in the last 20 years. But I think they need to do something different. And also, Rich Rod succeeded at West Virginia in a different era. Completely different than what it is now. You need a guy who's proven he can win in modern college football and knows the landscape of the NIL.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, I want to shout out Mark from Steelers Nation Australia. Guys, you don't need a translator. He does speak English. And if you like Steelers football, this is the guy. Every Tuesday, you can listen to him and Bubba Brewer on their shows. So, yeah, Steelers Nation Australia, thanks. But Perry Elford, he answered the question we asked just a few minutes ago. Out in Oklahoma, which is where he resides, he says the Sooners are worried about Venables. They're screaming for his head. They want him gone tomorrow. Gundy stepped into this year, but he's okay until retirement. So I think Gundy's gonna survive per Perry Elford. But guys, what do you think? You think Gundy's going to be able to hang on for 2 to 3 years, 5 years? And Venables, I think he's going to be gone.
Venables is definitely gone. He's was a weird hire to begin with. The Oklahoma brand is just kind of weird, man. They were really good in the Big 12 because they were one of the big dogs, right? Them in Texas, and Oklahoma pretty much ran the Big 12 for a decade. But in the SEC, they're just kind of another team. They're just another Auburn. They're just another South Carolina, a Tennessee. They're not an LSU. They're not an Alabama. They're not a Georgia in the SEC. So I think that I really, well, the money they're not going to regret, but I think Oklahoma is going to regret leaving the Big 12 eventually. I don't know when that time's going to come, but obviously they lost their coach to USC and what's Lincoln Riley. Yeah. And Brett Venables is just a weird hire, man. It's just a really weird hire. It's going to be an attractive job. I'm not for sure he's going to get fired this year. I think he might get a chance to start the next season. I don't know what his buyout is. But I wouldn't be so sure about Gundy not being fired, man. Perry, I'm telling you, I read an article today said that the board is really struggling because they, like, when you've coached for 18 years, right? You can struggle in the beginning, but to struggle your worst towards the end is really bad, and it kind of makes it feel like it's going in the wrong direction. And can you dig yourself out of that hole? Virginia's basketball coach, who's won a national championship, retired this past year because he said the NIL apparently is just changed basketball, and he doesn't really fit with that style or this new era of college athletics. Maybe that's the problem with Gundy too. He's not equipped for modern college athletics with NIL.
I thought Debo Sweeney was going to be the guy that is choking with the NIL. He was the one that was trying to push a rope uphill. It just seems like that guy that doesn't care what you're telling him. That's a hard way to do it, But, like Kelly Ford said, I think Gundy will be gone.
So I want to do something here. So Brad Smith, the voice of Morgantown. We all know Brad, whether you love him, hate him, dislike him, or whatever it might be. Brad Smith put out an article earlier today talking about the coaching candidates for next hire at Western University. And I want to run over each one of these candidates, and I just want each one of you to tell me, Shane, Jacob, and Will, I want you to tell me how likely, percentage-wise, 0% to 100%, how likely it is that this person would take this job or get this job. That Westy would go after this person, and that this person would take the job. So let's start with his number one pick, Nick Saban. Shane, likelihood on a scale of 0 to 100.
0.01%, like 1/100th of 1,000th of a percent. Like it's a decimal. It's like not even 1%, guys.
I'm with Shane on that one.
Yeah. How about you, Will?
1 in a million.
1 in a million. Okay. All right. Number 2, Jimbo Fisher. Shane, your likelihood Jimbo Fisher could be the next head coach of West Virginia.
Ooh, that's a hard one. Let me look at the Magic 8 Ball. We used to use that on the show.
That Magic 8 Ball was right a lot more times than we were this year.
It was. It picked a lot of the schedule, like UCF.
It picked Arizona State to go to undefeated. Remember, we kept calling it crazy
to play in the championship. It picked Arizona State.
Yeah.
It's crazy shit.
And we called it crazy.
I would say, guys, it's probably, I would give it a 70% chance.
70. Will, what about you? Percentage at Jimbo Fisher?
I'm going to say probably an 80% chance. I think that it's more likely than not. I think they're not going to move on to the next candidate until he tells them no.
Okay. Jacob?
And Ren Baker stated this, and it's in quotations, that he has a list, and that list is hidden in his desk or safe somewhere. No one can see it. I think that, he's had discussions with Nick Saban, and Fisher is that second person on the list. And then there's probably the guy from the defensive coordinator from Georgia.
Yeah, we'll get to all those. I want to know your thoughts on the percentage. What percentage chance do you think there is to hire Jimbo Fisher?
95.
95. Okay. All right, here's number 3. Brad Smith. Brad Smith's number 3 is Rich Rodriguez. Rich Rodriguez. So we all know the story of Rich Rodriguez. Amazing job at West Virginia. Went to Michigan, was a complete failure, disgrace. Went to Arizona, didn't set the world on fire, and now here he is at Jacksonville State setting the world on fire again. Shane, what are your thoughts on Rich Rodriguez?
18%.
18. Will?
I'd say probably a 5% chance.
Oh, wow. Jacob?
You guys ain't gonna like me on this. I'm gonna go 65% chance because Pat McAfee's ties.
All right. Well, now here's a name that we hadn't talked about tonight. I did mention this name one time because I thought that's where Will was going to go. Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen is his number 4 choice for head coach of West Virginia, former head coach of Florida. He's 52 years old. He's 34-15. He's a great coach. He's had some ups and downs and stuff through the years. But Dan Mullen, Shane, how about Dan Mullen?
I think
there's a chance?
I don't know. I'm thinking this is like a 10% chance. I don't think this is very good.
Yeah. Well,
I'm thinking 1% because I think he's going to be the next UCF coach. I think he's going to return to Florida. Yeah. I think he's going to be the next Central Florida coach.
He's a Florida man. Is that what Uncle Lou says? He's a Florida man, Lou. Dan Mullen. Jacob, you in the same boat?
Yeah, he's a Florida guy, but I'm not in favor of him.
How about the West Virginia boy, Anthony Beck? Listen, Anthony Beck, he's made a name for himself in the XFL. He's a good coach. He's done a great job. NFL for 11 years. XFL now for the last several years, done a really good job. Kind of been sort of the face of the XFL, for a way, if you want to look at it that way. But how about Anthony Beck, Shane? What do you think about him as the head football coach of West Virginia?
Because he doesn't have any college football coaching experience, I give him a 0% chance.
Yeah, I agree.
0.
Yeah. Jacob, you agree?
I'm going to go 10 on that one. I'm going to go 10.
I'm bringing these in because I don't agree with hardly any of these. Okay, so here we are down to the defensive coordinator of Georgia, Glenn Schumann. Glenn, this could be an amazing hire. This is the type of hire that I'm talking about when you're looking at Alabamas and the Georgias and the LSUs and the Notre Dames and all those of the world. They go out here, they hire these big name coordinators to run their programs that have been in the fire. They've been at these big programs and they've been there for several years and they're doing a tremendous job. That's the kind of coaches they get. This would be a great coach. So what do you think about this, Shane? Defensive coordinator of Georgia, Glenn Schumann.
I would say this would be about a 15% chance just because, the experience in the NIL. So that's I'd give it a 15.
I'd probably say I'd say probably 20%. I think he's holding out for maybe a bigger job in his eyes that gives him a little bit more resources. Look at Dan Lanning in Oregon, the previous Georgia defensive coordinator. He's probably going to look to do something similar to him.
Jacob, you got a thought?
Well, if Day gets fired at Ohio State, I see him going there.
Oh, okay.
All right,
defensive coordinator at Penn State. This is a guy that we've all talked about. We've talked about this guy several times through the year because we've all said, hey, this is the reason Kansas was good. This is the reason Kansas was where they are. And then he goes to Penn State, and hey, he didn't let nothing down at Penn State. Penn State's had a pretty good offense this year. Andy Kotelnicki at Penn State, offensive coordinator. What do you think about him as a head coach, though? Can he come into a Power 5 job as a head coach? Now, he was what? He was at Buffalo before he went to Kansas, and then he came from Kansas to Penn State as offensive coordinator, same positions at all 3 schools. Is he ready to make that leap? And should West Virginia give him that opportunity before he takes a group of 5 leap?
So I like this one. Now let me tell you, it's like a Corvette with a baby seat in the back. No one's done it. It can be done, but I'm going to tell you right now, not a good idea. It looks good, but I don't think it's a great idea. I like Andy. I think he's a great coach, offensive coordinator, I should say. But he hasn't been a big ball coach at a big program. So I would have to give him I'll give him 10%.
You'll give him 10%. About you, Will.
You know what's funny is Kotelnicki, before he went to Kansas, when Vanderbilt hired their head coach Clark Lee, he was very, very close to being our offensive coordinator, but then he followed him, Lance Leipold, to Kansas. I'd say probably like a 15% chance. I think it's someone definitely on the list, but I don't know if they're necessarily wanting to go that route, and I don't think I think maybe he might want to stay at Penn State for another year.
Yeah, Penn State's one of the jobs you take, and you hope that you're the coach in waiting, right? It's one of the jobs you take, and you go in there and you think, okay, if they get rid of their coach, if Franklin's gone tomorrow, I've got a chance to become the head coach of Penn State if I can do a good job and I can make a name for myself. So he's at a job right now where he's probably hoping he is the next who's the last big name to do that? Ryan Day. I'm the next Ryan Day, right?
Ryan Day looks like he sells furniture, used furniture.
Used furniture salesman. Hey guys, I actually have to head out. I appreciate you guys for letting me join you tonight, and I'm excited to see who you guys hire. Hopefully, we'll do another episode whenever that happens. Let's hope it's Jimbo Fisher, and hope West Virginia returns to their glory days.
Yeah. So we'll check Will out over on MLS Moves. Will started his channel up less than a year ago. Will, you got a drive going on right now. What's your next subscriber goal here?
I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by Saturday for the MLS Cup final, which is the championship of the league. I'm 155 away, so I'm getting really close. I think I'll hit that by next Saturday. So yeah, just check out my channel if you like soccer. Even if you don't, maybe I can persuade you to get into it. But Shane, Joey, Jacob, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you,
and,
Will.
Hope to see you guys again soon.
All right, Will. Take care, brother.
Will, buddy. Hey, there's one person we forgot to ask.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
We haven't asked this person in a while, but it's not really a person. Let's see what the Magic 8 Ball tells us when we ask him about Jimbo Fisher coming to West Virginia. What do you think, Joey, Jacob?
Well, the Magic 8 Ball, man, I tell you what, it predicted Arizona State when none of us were on board with Arizona State.
I'm going to say that 8 Ball is going to say very likely.
Yeah, to close the show out, I thought we'd ask the Magic 8 Ball, and then
guys,
sounds
what do you think? Me.
Okay,
let's ask it.
Here we go. Magic 8 Ball. Will Jimbo Fisher be the next coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers? Let's see what it's saying. I said,
try again. Replies hazy. They must still be thinking.
Magic 8 Ball. Will Jimbo Fisher be the next coach of the Mountaineers? Without a doubt. Heard it.
Without a doubt.
On the voice
Jimbo Fisher, you've heard it here first from the Magic 8 Ball. Jimbo Fisher is the next head coach at West Virginia University.
That's it. Thank you, Magic 8 Ball.
Yeah.
Because you did
sorry, Tony Gibson and Kirk Cinetti and all the other people that wanted those guys and stuff, and all the Rich Rod fans. The Magic 8 Ball has spoken.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jacob, thanks for coming on. We had a fantastic show.
I got one question before we go. I never got the answer that Andy Kotelnicki or how you say his name. My opinion is if he comes, what do you guys think about the stuff that's going around on the internet that he's got an interview already?
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he is being interviewed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am too.
He's on the short
list. There's going to be people interviewed for this job. It's not like they're going to just jump on somebody,
Because, Jacob, here's the thing with the assistant coach. If you're a head coach, you're wanting to keep this on the down low, because what I keep saying, going back to our interview with the parents of 2 Division I football players, what's the key? The key is stability. They want to have that perception that they're not leaving the program in case they don't get the job. The kids don't leave thinking that this guy's looking for other jobs, right? So if you're a head coach, you don't want anybody to know. You want your agent doing the work. And if anybody asks, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to go work at West Virginia, right? So the assistant coaches, on the other hand, they're doing recruiting, but there's a little bit more fluidity for them to go around, flying into Morgantown, landing at the Morgantown airport. Whereas, it's backdoor, really, really on the down low interviews, or phone conversations with these other guys that are maybe head coaches. That's just my opinion based off of, the way I think the world works. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there has been some sort of conversation between Ren Baker and this guy. So, Andy. So.
All right, well, folks, I'm Joey Foster. That was Shane Statmiller, and we will be back with you guys again as soon as a new coach is hired at West Virginia University. Everyone, have a great night. We appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time.